I would like to continue working on just some examples involving probability. So again, feel free to pause this video and see if you can work it out on your own, and then unpause it and see if what you're doing is the same thing we're doing. So Butch has a collection of 80 vinyl records from throughout the 20th century. So this is like the 1900s. So including seven from the 1940s, eight from the 1950s, 11 from the 60s, eight from the 70s, 16 from the 80s. If he randomly selects one from his collection, find the probability it will be from each of the following decades. So he's only going to choose one out of 80. So the question is, what's the probability that this is going to be from the 40s? So in the 40s, notice how we have seven from the 40s. So the favorable outcomes is going to be 70. I'm sorry, seven. There's seven from the 40s, and there are 80 records to choose from. So he has a 7 out of 80 chance of getting the probability from something from the 40s. Now you can type in 7 divided by 80 into your calculator, hit enter. It can change it to a decimal for you. So that's going to be about like, 0.0875, or if I round to the hundredths place, that's seven, let's say move that eight up to a nine. So it would be about 0.09. So around a 9% chance of this happening. Now they want to simplify fractions. So you can go to the math button. Notice right now it's a decimal. If you go to the math button, the first one here says arrow fraction. That means to convert to a fraction. So if I hit enter there, it'll change this answer to a fraction. So notice how it's still going to be 7 out of 80, so it doesn't reduce. So my next question we have is then, what's the probability that when he chooses a record, it's going to be from the 50s? So that's how we have eight from the 50s. So we do see this is going to be 8 out of 80. Notice how, again, it's got to be a simplified fraction. I can see an 8 in each one of those, so I can divide an 8 in each one. So 8 does go into 8 one time, and 8 does go into 80 10 times, because 10 times 8 is 80. So that should be a 1/10 chance. Now, again, if you're not great with simplifying fractions, you can, on the calculator, type in 8 divided by 80. And remember, I do have a TI-84 in the folder that you can use if you want to use this modeling. So if we hit enter, notice how it does give me zero point 0.1, which does stand for 1/10. But again, if we can also hit the math button and say, hey, would you mind turn that into a fraction for me? Number one. So answer arrow fraction means convert the 1/10 to a fraction. So we'd turn it back to 1/10. So find the probability that's from the 60s. Notice how there's 11 from the 60s. So it's going to be 11 out of 60. I can't see 11 going into 60 because 11 is a prime number. And the factors of, or the multiples of 11 are like 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, 66. So 60 is not a factor of 11. So 11 sixtieths should be the correct answer. Again, you can put that into the calculator, turn it into a fraction, and it should get you 11 sixtieths. The 70s again is 8 from the 70s. So again, we're back to this 8 out of 80. Why did I put a 60 there? That should be 11 out of 80, not 60. Thanks for catching that. So 11 out of 80, but still 11 out of 80 is not going to reduce. Sorry about that. Now back to the 70s. So 8 from the 70s, so that would be 8 out of 80. Well, that's the same thing as the 50s. So that's just going to be the same simplified fraction of 1/10. So I got the same probability from the 50s as the 70s. And then the 80s, we have a 16 out of 80. I do know 8 does go into both of those, so I can divide 8 into each one of these, because I do know 8 goes in 16 two times. I do know 8 goes in 80, as we've been saying, 10, because 2 times 8 is 16. 10 times 8 is 80 to verify that. But 2/10 also reduces because I can divide a 2 out of each one of those. So if I divide this by 2 and divide this by 2, I can reduce it. Remember, reducing fractions, as long as the numerator and denominator can be divided by the same number, it's reducible. Because remember, that really essentially represents 1. So 2 goes into 1 time, and 2 does go into 10 5 times, so 1/5. Now, again, you can use your calculator. You go 16 divided by 80 and get the 2/10, if you will. But you can go math and say, hey, would you convert that to a fraction for me, 1/5? Now, remember, the F1 button does have the fraction button. So if you want to enter it in as a fraction, you can. But remember, F1 is green. So if you hit the alpha button and then the y equals button, number one says, do you want a fraction? Yeah. So if you want to type a fraction in, you can. So I can type the 16 in the numerator and the 80 in the denominator. And when I hit enter, it will put the fraction in simplest form. So now say I can put the fraction directly into the calculator as well and get that 1/5. Okay, so that's question number 7. Not too difficult.